Character creates company culture.
Mm.
I often say, show me the character of your leaders and I'll show you the culture of your company.
Oh, that's powerful. Yeah.
Show me the character of your leaders and I'll show you the mental health of your employees. Show me the character of your leaders and I will show you the mental wellness of your people. Show me the character of your leaders and I will show you the levels of toxicity within your workplace, or the quality of your workplace relationship.
The people who rise up the ranks are not the people with the strongest character. It's the people who are the strongest followers. They don't think for themselves. They don't challenge the status quo. Those are the individuals that the teams cannot trust, because you don't have our interest at heart. Because that is what a leader is. A leader with character challenges the status quo because they are very clear on what is right versus what is wrong.
In the knowledge, the power is in the character of the person who has the knowledge. So it's no longer knowledge is power. I believe character is power. Character is power. The great, and I mentioned this earlier, but just let me reiterate this.
Yes.
And because I think this is significant. The greatest injustices and abuses and ill treatment and victimization and pain and suffering perpetuated in societies and in organizations, in governments and in companies are not caused by those who lack knowledge, Inga. Are not by those who lack skill and intelligence and information. On the contrary, it is caused by those who have a wealth of knowledge. Listen to the statement. They have a wealth of knowledge, but are poor in character.
Sure.
Wealth of knowledge in the presence of poorness of character will lead to an abuse of three things: position, an abuse of position, an abuse of power, and abuse of people. And if we were to look at this country, South Africa, and even Africa in general, the entire world, but if we were to focus on Africa and South Africa, we are told, and once again, here's a misconception. If we talk about misconceptions and the role that character plays in this, we are told that we have a major corruption problem in this country. And as I alluded to you the other day, we don't have a corruption problem in South Africa. It's irrelevant the billions and the trillions of rand that have been lost through corruption over the last many years. Corruption is not a problem. Corruption never was a problem, is not a problem, and will never ever be a problem. The problem that we have in this country is a character problem.
So sorry, pause there again, because now you're juxtaposing symptom versus the cause.
Yes.
And I think this is where, this is where people need to really understand, because in the corporate environment, we are quick to jump into resolve and fix the symptom.
Exactly.
We pour money down the drain. We waste time, we waste resources to fix the symptom.
Exactly.
And it might just be because we are so anesthetized to what the problems are. We don't have the energy to actually ask the right critical questions to unpack what the actual problem is. So we rather just waste our time here fixing the symptom.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is what you are saying here, is that so we focus on the corruption, which is a symptom.
Yes.
But we're not addressing the character or the lack thereof. That's the cause.
Exactly. And here's the thing, and this is part of the reason why I do what I do. And as I mentioned to you the other day, the focus that we have in terms of leadership and character development in South Africa, it's unique, it's exclusive to us. Yes, there might be other guys who do ethics awareness and value-based, moral-based leadership, whatever the case might be, and it's absolutely fine. But when it comes to leadership and character development, right here is where the rubber hits the road.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, we are busy trying to solve the symptom when the symptom is not even the problem.
Yes.
We are misdiagnosed the problem. If you misdiagnose the problem, Inga, you're going to misdiagnose the medication.
Yes.
Because if you think you're suffering with a headache and you're taking a headache pill, but the problem is not in your head, the problem is in your gut, you've misdiagnosed the problem, you've misdiagnosed the medication.
And you're creating a systemic issue, like, yeah.
Exactly. And so you've solved nothing. And often we fool ourselves into thinking that we've solved the problem because it gives temporary relief. Until we are dealing with the character of individuals, all the way from government, from the highest level of government to the grassroots levels of our schools and our communities, until we talk about, address and deal with and develop the character of individuals, our society needs to brace itself for a long journey of corruption, abuse of power, people, abuse of resources. It's going to stay. Corruption is going to stay within our company cultures. And I can guarantee you this. Many people who are watching this podcast, who are going to watch this podcast, I can tell you they are victims of abuse in the workplace. Their manager is abusive. And by the way, if you go to the manager's office, sitting behind him, qualification from all kinds of universities, skill development, accumulated, it's on the wall.
Yeah, the entire alphabet behind their name.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, does that stop the individual from creating a toxic working culture? No, it doesn't. Does that stop the highly intelligent individual, degrees, diplomas, etc.? And listen, we endorse studying. We endorse developing yourself. Our problem with developing yourself is that we are so, with the blinkers on our eyes, we think that it's only skills that need to be developed. Now, if you want a truth bomb, if you want something that is tweetable, and please,
listen, I've got my phone ready here.
Yeah, okay, but let me just caution you and everyone else that's going to be watching. Anything that is tweetable from me, you better have my name at the end of that tweet.
Absolutely. We'll give a clear instruction.
I often joke with my people in my sessions, and I say to them, listen, I'm going to tell you some stuff that you're either going to love or you're going to hate. If you want to go and tweet it and you want to post it, don't ever let me catch you quoting me but not giving me credit. Check this out. Skills development at the expense of character development produces a culture and a generation of educated bullies.
Ooh.
Skills development at the expense of character development produces a culture of educated bullies.
That's powerful, Shawn.
Right now, in our workplaces, the abusive bully leaders, managers, colleagues that you work with are educated, but they are bullies. And I often say there's no bully so great a bully than an educated bully.
Sure.
Don't tell me that as long as we are doing skills development, we are good to go. You ain't going nowhere. Companies are going nowhere. Companies are fooling themselves to think that as long as they have, they're throwing millions into skills development, millions of rands into skills development. They're skilling the bullies. They're skilling the people who have got a character problem. I believe in skills development. If you got a skills problem, skills development is the right solution, right? But where there is a character problem, skills development will never solve the problem. You need a character development solution. Now, check this out. When an individual, and we're talking about leadership, and this is too common not to talk about it. When leaders are angry and leaders are abusive, intimidators, victimizers, they threaten their people, they undermine their people, they create toxic company cultures, they're abusive. At the end of the day, that leader does not have a skills problem, they have a character problem. You can send that leader on all kinds of skills development initiatives. At the end of the day, is not going to solve the problem. You're just making an intellectual, educated bully more intellectual and more educated, but you're not solving the root cause of the problem, which is the character. At the end of the day, what we are trying to do as an organization, and we have created a momentum already where we are working with leaders, building the character of leaders. And I need to say this. And once again, it can be offensive depending on the mindset that you have, right? We don't need leaders in this country. We don't need leaders. What we need is leaders of character. That's what we need. I'll say that again. We don't need leaders. We need leaders of character. Is there absolutely? It is two different fish altogether. Just because you are a leader does not mean that you are a person of character. Just because you are qualified does not mean you are a person of character. Society has succeeded in producing leaders who are strong in skills, Inga, but it's failed to produce leaders who are strong in character.
So it's like slapping lipstick on a pig, basically.
Exactly, and trying our best to make it as gorgeous as possible. Lipstick, earrings, eyebrows, eyelashes. We're trying to
whole
sugarcoat
works.
something.
Yeah.
The whole thing, and we're trying to beautify the ugliness of an individual. And there's no person is more ugly than a person who lacks character. And not ugly on the outside, ugly on the inside. And so the result is the perpetual cycle, Inga. The perpetual cycle of corruption, perpetual cycle of greed, mismanagement, toxic company cultures, workplace relationships, high employee turnover, low staff morale, a decrease in employee mental health, and the abuse of power and position and people. Why? Because we are focusing on developing the skills of people, but we are neglecting to develop the character of the individual. The fact is this: leaders are struggling in leadership, despite well-developed skills and ongoing skills training and leadership development. Leaders are struggling to gain the trust of people. They are struggling to lead with integrity. They are struggling to motivate their teams, build morale, effectively influence, and create healthy company cultures. And you know why? Because leaders have not been prepared fully for leadership. They have been ill-prepared, actually.
Yeah.
And I often say this: you cannot do leadership development while ignoring character development. Because if you're not developing the character of a leader, tell me exactly what are you developing? Skills. So we think, listen, we are not one-dimensional, Inga. We are not one-dimensional. It's not all intelligence. It's not all about knowledge. It's not all about skill. It's not all about your qualifications. You in fact, you are not even your skill set. You are your character. And so part of what we are doing is we are changing the narrative. We are shining a light on the need for leaders of character in this country. And until we focus on character development and having discussions and talks and conversations on the character of leaders, we are going to be missing the boat completely. I am fortunate enough to be working with companies, organizations, and individuals who see the need for their character to be developed. And I've said this so many times. When a leaders who decide to develop their character, it is not an acknowledgement that their character is weak. It is an admission that their leadership cannot survive if their character is weak, if that makes sense to you.
Sure, absolutely. You know what, as you were talking, I was thinking of in my corporate days where, so I mean, there were times where I would cringe when I would be asked to get a leadership academy off the ground, or just get a let's say a middle management leadership development program off the ground, right? And I would cringe because I'm thinking to myself, that's not the problem this company has. The problem this company has is that your executives, your C-suite individuals, their character's lacking, right? There's no integrity. There's bullying. There's no, because for me, a good leader is somebody that's even keel with emotions, right? It's somebody that's empathetic. It's somebody who understands what integrity means and practices integrity. And along with that is humility and all of those things. And I always find it laughable when I used to be asked to get a training provider in that can train humility. I'm like, no, life teaches you humility, and you have to be willing to learn that, right? And I mean, they were very clear, you know, over my history of the leadership programs I managed to get off the ground. There were times where it worked, and there were times where it didn't. And it goes without saying, the times when it didn't work, it was usually, and they call middle management the lost children, right, in corporate. So it was always a case of our middle managers need to go on leadership development because our attrition is too high, or the level of entropy or culture entropy, or the level of, to the point where our employees are engaged, it's so low. So it has to be middle management, and we have to fix that level. And I'm thinking to myself, no, because if you have one leader, a bad leader, 99.9%, you can be certain that bad leader is bad, because it's a perpetual thing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I would always say that happy to get these programs off the ground, but understand we have to deal with this holistically, we have to deal with this systemically.
Yes.
So if you want to set this program up for success and you don't want to waste your money, I highly recommend that the C-suite, the executives, need to go through some form of coaching, need to go through some form of guidance and awareness to say that, okay, if we bring this program on board, we have to speak the same language. We actually need to buy into the values we're trying to inculcate with this program. And you know what? They just emphatically say no.
Oh, wow.
And that's when I know this is not going to work. I'm going to waste my time. But you know what? I've got a job to do. But versus programs that actually did so well is where our C-suite executives weren't so full of themselves. They actually rolled up their sleeves and they got involved and they were like, okay, what do we do? Absolutely. Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, as long as we are not dealing with the character of the individuals, and like you said, if we don't start at senior executive level, at the end of the day, leadership is influence. And if we're not starting with the guys from the top, leadership comes from the top, right? It's the influence from the head all the way down. And I can understand and identify the challenges that you had, Inga, trying to bring change and transformation. And, you know, if the solution, it's amazing how, if the solution that you propose to people is the solution, but it's not something that they want. That's not the solution they want.
Yeah.
They don't want, unfortunately, companies don't want solutions to problems. They want solutions to symptoms.
So true.
They don't want solutions to problems because once the problem is solved, they want solutions to symptoms. And you know why they want solutions to symptoms and not solutions to problems, Inga? Exactly what you said, because once they dig deep into the problem, they would realize who the problem is.
Absolutely. Amen to that, Shawn.
They will realize who the problem, because once you identify who the problem is, the light shines on who the problem is. But no, we got to cover this up. We cannot expose leadership. We cannot expose that leadership is the problem. And unfortunately, once again, you know what, I refer to this as corporate tribalism. Corporate tribalism, where we watch for each other's backs, and where it's leaders and managers covering each other's backs, and so they will not throw each other under the bus. And so even if a leader and a manager knows that his fellow leader or manager is unethical, is corrupt, is abusive, whatever the case is, he will not throw him under the bus. And the reason he will throw him under the bus is because their character is just as weak as the guy who needs to be thrown under the bus.
Yeah.
And so we are protecting the company, and we're protecting the people from the actual solution to the problem. Now, let me say this very quickly. Leadership development has been relegated to an academic, theoretical, curriculum-based tick box exercise with qualifications and certificate of attendance, completion, and competence issued as proof that the leader has been developed, right? Because as long as you get your certificate at the end of the course, Inga, you must develop now, right?
Yeah, no, you've changed the world. You've changed the world.
You've changed the world because you got a certificate. You've attended. You've been there, even though you may have been sleeping for half the time. I've been developed, people. I've got the proof. Leadership development is not a program. Leadership development is not a program. It is not a series of academic workshops and sessions that teaches you nice principles, concepts, theories, and lessons. And that is what leadership development has been relegated to. We got to learn leadership theories and principles and concepts and lessons, etc., etc. And we find that as long as we ingest this intellectually, we are being developed as leaders. And that's a fallacy. That's a misconception. Leadership development does not even start with leadership development. And that might sound so foreign, because leadership development does not even start with leadership development or even with the leader. Now, I know that is sounding strange, but that doesn't even make sense. How can leadership development not even start with leadership development or even with the leader? Leadership development is a lifelong personal development journey and experience It starts with the character development of the person, Inga, not the leader, but the person who's going to be a leader or is a leader. You are firstly a private individual person before you are a leader. You can agree with that, right?
No, absolutely.
You're a private individual person before you are a leader. You weren't born a leader. When you were born, your parents didn't look at you and say, oh, my leader. No, little baby, you're a person, you're an individual, right? So you are not your position, you are not your title, you are not your skill set, you are your character. So for us to develop the leader to be a better leader, develop the leader to be a better leader, but not develop the person to be a better person, is to develop is to say that we are prioritizing you as a leader, but not prioritizing you as an individual. So in other words, we are prioritizing you as a professional. Your professional identity as a leader is more important than your personal identity as a person. That is more important, if you understand what I've just said.
Yeah,
so skills development chooses to develop the leader, whereas character development is an attempt to develop the person that is the leader. So it's firstly personal development before we actually get to leadership development. Let me ask you a question quickly, Inga. Will you trust a person whose character cannot be trusted?
Not at all.
Why
not? Not at all.
Now check this out. You in a company environment, you probably a manager, management, senior executive, whatever the case might be. You're going to hire an individual to manage your entire company, teams, whatever the case might be. Guys highly skilled, or woman highly skilled, intelligent, gifted, smart, qualifications, whatever the case might be. But there might be some issues with the character. Will you hire the individual?
Not at all.
But why not? What's character got to do with this? What's character got to do with the role of character? And listen, you know where I'm going with this, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's why I'm smiling.
Yeah. I'm being funny when I say this because I'm trying to get the point of how simple it is, but how complicated we've made it. You cannot get away from the fact that we need people of character. The only person who don't want people of character within a company culture, are people who are benefiting from those who don't have character.
Yeah.
There is no logical reason why we do not want and need to develop the character of people so that they can be stronger people, stronger leaders. If I were to ask you, which I just did right now, will you trust a person who does not have character? You said no. If we will never trust a person whose character cannot be trusted, Inga, why then are we entrusting position, power, people, and resources to leaders whose character has never been prepared for leadership? A leader whose character has not been prepared for leadership is a leader who is unprepared in leadership. Having strong skills does not mean you have strong personal character. Having strong academic qualifications does not mean you have strong personal character. Having strong talents and gifts does not mean you have strong personal character. Having strong charisma, and how do we love people with charisma, Inga?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can absolutely. Laugh and he's a charismatic individual. Yes. He's the best person. Having strong charisma does not mean that you are a person of character. Having strong personality does not mean you. And here's the thing: we often confuse personality and character. We think, he's such a strong. No, he's just a strong personality. No, his personality is not strong. His character is weak. So we often justify the way the way managers treat people, and it's often abusive, by saying, no, it's just his personality. It's not his personality. And I've said this many times before, do not blame the leadership style for what the personal character is responsible for. We've heard so many times where a person is abusive, they're hard, they're harsh, they are unsympathetic towards people, they're pushing people, they are slave drivers. And then at the end of the day, the company protects that leader and that manager by saying it's his leadership style. Sir, ma'am, it ain't got nothing to do with the leadership style. It's got everything to do with character. Do not leadership style for what the personal character of the individual is responsible for. So let me just say this quickly. Having strong personality does not mean you have strong character. Listen to this, Inga. The greatest deception in leadership is the belief that leaders who have strong leadership skills, leadership talent, leadership experience, strong leadership qualifications, and strong charisma automatically have strong personal character. Greatest deception within skills development in this country.
Wow.
And so because we are prioritizing skills development, and listen, people might be hearing me talk and say, this guy's got a problem with skills development. No, I do skills development. I am doing skills development. My problem is not with skills development. My problem is what you are ignoring. It's what you are sidelining. It's what you are neglecting, which is the character development. And so why aren't we developing character? And so that is why I choose to focus on developing the character of people. Until we are developing character, we will perpetuate producing leaders who will have weakness of character.
You know what, Shawn, with all of that, what you've just been saying to me now, you are validating what I've been seeing over the span of my career of almost 20 years in the space of people development. And that is that the best individual and here's the irony, walk into in a corporate environment, walk into an office, ask anybody in the office, who's the go-to person? Who's the person that you would entrust your deepest, darkest secret? Like, who's the person you would go to if you've got an issue? Guess what? It's not the person who is the line manager.
Yeah.
And what you are validating for me is that the people who rise up the ranks are not the people with the strongest character. It's the people who are the strongest followers.
Interesting.
They don't think for themselves. They don't challenge the status quo. Those are the individuals that the teams cannot trust because you don't have our interest at heart, because that is what a leader is. A leader with character challenges the status quo because they are very clear on what is right versus what is wrong. And those are the individuals who do not grow up the ranks.
Definitely. I couldn't have said it any better. And yes, and this is part of the slogan for our leadership and character. Part of the slogan is that character creates company culture. I often say, show me the character of your leaders and I'll show you the culture of your company.
Oh, that's powerful. Yeah.
Show me the character of your leaders and I'll show you the mental health of your employees. Show me the character of your leaders and I will show you the mental wellness of your people. Show me the character of your leaders and I will show you the levels of toxicity within your workplace or the quality of your workplace relationships. I've said this to you the other day. There is not a human being on the planet who does not walk around or leaves the house without their character. Your character goes with you every day. There is not a single human interaction that is void of character. Every human encounter, no matter how brief, is an encounter of characters. Sure. Whether you're filling petrol, you're dealing with the petrol attendant's character, he's dealing with your character. Because if you're rude and abrupt with him and you are disrespectful to him or him to you, you think you're dealing with levels of skill sets here? You think you're dealing with levels of intelligence? No, you're dealing with levels of what? Character.
Character.
When the lady is busy packing your groceries at the supermarket and she's maybe rude to you or you rude to her, you think you're dealing with levels of intelligence and knowledge? No, you're dealing with levels of character. There is not a human encounter on this planet that it does not involve individual character. Every human encounter is an encounter of characters. Now, Inga, tell me this. Because workplace relationship is an encounter of characters, how have we survived these years without developing the character of people? Yet every time you open up your mouth, your character is displayed. Every time you treat someone in a particular way, your character is being displayed. You do not treat people from the level of your intelligence. You do not treat people from the level of your skill set. How much you know does not determine how you treat people. It's the level of your character that determines how you treat people. So any abusive relationship, the root of it is often rooted in the character of individuals. I often say, if character was a person, it will never If character was a person, Inga,
Yeah.
that person will never be a person who lacks character.
Sure.
So if you're looking for a model of leadership, if you want to look at what a model of leadership, an example of leadership looks like, look to the character of that individual. How is it that as a country we are trying to produce leaders to be ethical, to be people of morals and values, yet we're not developing the character of the individual? Do not expect a person to be a person of ethics if you're not developing the character of the individual that determines whether they are a person of ethics. Yes, you want a tweetable tweet? You want something
sure.
to tweet?
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Great talent that lacks character is toxic talent.
We have to say that again.
Great talent that lacks character is toxic talent.
Oh, that's powerful.
The problem that we have in this country is that we have too many educated toxic people, educated bullies. We are producing people, and we didn't even get to talk about this today, Inga, maybe as a follow-up session, because
we have to do a follow-up. Yeah.
Part of our approach to developing the character of people is we have our we have our leadership character development program, LCD. Then we have our woman leadership character development, where it's exclusively developing women of leaders, women leaders.
Yeah.
And why have I chosen to develop women leaders? Yeah. We are busy producing, women are busy occupying positions of power and authority, right? Correct?
Yes.
Rightfully so, yourself included. Am I right?
Yes. Where are you going with this?
Now listen to this. I know I got you a bit nervous. Check this out. I believe that we do not need women in leadership. We do not need women in leadership. Sorry, Inga, I know that's a bit of offensive there to you because
no.
You know what we need? We need women of character in leadership.
Yes.
I know we are on this trajectory in this country, and rightfully so, for women to occupy positions of power and authority, rightfully so. Yeah. But Inga, a woman should not occupy a position because she's a woman. She should occupy a position because she's a woman of character in a position. Do you think a woman who lacks character, who fulfills a position of authority, is going to be any better than a man who sits in a position of power and authority? Absolutely not. A woman's leadership is going to be no different to anyone's leadership unless she's a woman of character in leadership. I've said this before, and once again, I'm going to leave this for follow-up sessions where we talk about leadership, women in leadership. Yes. I've mentioned this before, and let me just drop this bomb right here. Often the greatest abusers of women in the workplace is another woman. Yes. You know, you've been there. Yeah. Stories that we can talk. Do you know how many people I deal with women on a regular basis that tells me of their abuser? Do you know what's one of the very first questions I ask them? Is it another woman? And they say, yes, it is another woman. Do we need women do we need women in leadership? No. We need women of character in leadership. A woman in leadership who's got a character problem is going to be just as bad as a man who lacks character that's in leadership. Even worse, because they feel like they have to prove them. No, I'm going to say it because it is shocking, because I know that a lot of women out there want to talk about feminism and all of that, but I mean, there's what is so bad about, and I'm going to put it out there, I call them the bra burning brigade, because for me, the power of a female, of a woman, is that feminine energy within her. Yeah. There's a softness about that feminine energy. We have been built, we've been created for relationship. And women especially are more sensitive to that and to that character trait than men. And the sad thing is that when women want to step into that realm of leadership, that's the first thing that they sacrifice to step into that leadership position. So to your point, when they step into that leadership position, they've crucified
all of the character traits that will actually set them up, what we think we're fighting for, because we feel like we're going to be leaders with a difference. But actually, no.
We're becoming like the previous generation of leaders.
Even worse.
Exactly. Fully agree with you. No, I fully understand. And so listen, I'm excited. I'm excited to see women occupy positions of power and authority and influence. Excited, but also cautiously nervous or nervously cautious, whatever the right term is, because everyone is pushing for women to be in leadership. We endorse that, myself personally. My only concern is this: what are we doing to develop the character of those women? I'm going to say this, just whether you're a man or a woman, and even with young people, if we are not preparing the character of the individual, man, woman, youth, if we are not preparing the character of the individual for leadership, we are not preparing them for leadership. We are going to be misleading them in leadership. Because the foundation of character is not there to protect them when they are in leadership. We are doing a complete injustice to women leaders, men leaders, and youth leaders by ignoring their character development. Leaders are failing in leadership because their character is failing them. So just to round this thing off with women in leadership very, very quickly. The power of a woman in leadership is not because she's a woman in leadership, but because she's a woman of character in leadership. Women bring uniqueness to leadership because they are women, but their power in leadership is not necessarily because they are women in leadership, but because they are women of character in leadership. As women continue to rise in influence and occupy critical leadership roles, they cannot lead with the same level of compromised character as their predecessors and expect different results and impact in their leadership. We need women of character to lead differently. We need women of character to lead better. We need women of character to lead stronger. However, if they themselves lack character, they will lead no different and no better than the way others have led.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And let me just say this very quickly. Women leadership character development, and part of our offerings is on youth leadership character development. Once again, we can talk for days on this. The next generation of young leaders will only be as strong as their character. We cannot possibly train, develop, and prepare our youth for leadership while ignoring their character. We cannot possibly do leadership development for our young people while we're ignoring the foundation of their character. For me, the only thing that is more disturbing, Inga, than the current generation of leaders who lack character are the future leaders who will follow in their footsteps. Because the current generation of leaders is setting the tone, the example, and the model of what leadership looks like for the future generation. So we have a critical leadership crisis in this country, and it cannot be solved by reproducing the same leaders. And I often say this, if you do not do character development for your leaders, you are not producing a new generation of leaders. You are just reproducing this old generation of characterless leaders in the new generation of leaders who themselves are going to become as corrupt and characterless as the previous generation. We are fooling ourselves with numbers because every year we talk about the number of matrics that have graduated, the number of university students that have graduated, and we applaud this as if it is an achievement. It's not an achievement if the character of our young people have never been developed and prepared for the world of work. Would you... How do we enhance the future of our country? How do you put the future in the hands of an individual whose character has not been prepared to hold and handle the future of this country? So we have missed the mark completely. And once again, Inga, I just need to control myself and just calm down. Just calm down.
No, I love it. The passion is coming out. Let it go. Let it go.
And so we need to have the conversations about leadership and character. And so there's much more that needs to be said. And I'm looking forward to greater platforms. And you know what? Let me use your platform while I have the opportunity to challenge companies, corporates, government departments, if you are watching and you are responsible for your company's skills development, you in HR and you're part of the leadership development team and you're responsible for your company's leadership development, and even if you are responsible for hosting your company's conferences, if you are running conferences, leadership conferences, and you are not talking about the character of your leaders, I question the conference that you are hosting and running. Seriously.
Yes.
I am yet to find conferences. And listen, I'm always on the lookout for conferences. I put myself out there.
Yeah.
Talk about leadership and character, and what better platform than at leadership conferences. So I want to challenge people, companies, government departments that are out there. If you are brave enough, and if you are intuitive enough to see the role that character plays in the life of a leader, how they lead, and who they are as they lead, I challenge you to make character and leadership part of your conference keynote address, where we talk about the character of your leaders. Will it make them uncomfortable? I can guarantee you that it will. Yeah. All they need to do is just see the title of the topic, leadership and character, and I can almost guarantee you some of them would want to miss that session unless it's the main session at the end of the day. So I want to leave that out there with our individuals and with our people out there, is to give more scope to character. We need to shine the light on character, which is what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm on a mission to bring character back to leadership, and I want to thank you, Inga, for giving me the opportunity to share some insights on leadership and character. At the end of the day, a society that neglects the character and the character development of its leaders should not complain when those leaders are leaders of unethics, are leaders that are corrupt and abusive. At the end of the day, if we are looking for leaders of character, should we not prepare leaders of character? If we want whatever it is that you want from leadership, you got to prepare for it. So if you want leaders to be strong in skill, that's the reason why you are sending in on leadership development courses, workshops, right? Why? Because the leadership, the skills development is preparing them to be leaders. Leaders who are skilled. But if you want your leaders to be leaders, your managers and leaders to be people of character, it only goes to say that you need to backtrack and say, we want leaders of character. What are we doing to produce leaders of character? Skills development does not do it. The conventional, generic, academic, curriculum-based skills development workshops does not produce leaders of character. Character development produces leaders of character. So I think it's going to have to bring this to a close, because I won't, Inga.
No, listen, look, one thing is for sure, we definitely need to do, I think, more than one follow-up, because I think leadership is such a multifaceted topic, and there are many moving parts, and I don't think that we don't fully understand the gravitas when it comes to leadership and what it means stepping into that position. And I think character is definitely the most important cornerstone of what it means to step into that space. And I just want to say to you, Shawn, thank you so much. You've got me fired up about this topic. And I love the energy you brought to it. It definitely comes through that this is a passionate calling about you, and I do hope that the more people that sees this podcast would actually sit up and notice and say, you know what, we need to do things differently, because all of this perpetual skills development programs that we've been doing, because let's face it, it looks awesome on and people in other countries might not have this, but in South Africa, we're chasing the transformation scorecard, so it looks amazing on there. But you know what? It is pointless, like lipstick on a pig, if there's no change coming from it. So all you're just doing is validating the definition of insanity. Absolutely. And I think your concept on character-based leadership is the one thing that hopefully jerks people out of this lifelong coma that they've been in. And understand that if we want, because we talk about transformation, we talk about doing things differently, but it takes one person to actually make the decision, Shawn. That's all it takes.
Oh, for sure.
One decision.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
Do things differently.
Exactly. Unless you're happy with what has been happening, but other than that, we need to do things absolutely differently. Before we close the session, I want to drop a few, just a few nuggets with you quickly before we go.
Absolutely.
If you don't mind. So why does character matter? Just very quickly, why does character matter? It's something that I should have said at the beginning of the session. Leaders are not credible until their character is. All right, I'm talking about why character. I'll throw a few points to you. Leaders are not credible until their character is. Leaders cannot succeed in leadership while failing in their character. I'll say that one again. Leaders cannot succeed in leadership while failing in their character. Leaders fail first in their personal character before they fail in leadership. Every human encounter is an encounter of each other's characters. Character creates company culture. Character is the biggest contributor to workplace toxicity, conflict, as it establishes workplace behavior. Character governs workplace relationships. In other words, how people treat each other. It governs the quality of individual relationships and individual performance. Character is the root cause of corruption. And as I said, we do not have a corruption problem. We have a character problem. When you deal with the character, inadvertently, you're dealing with the corruption issue. Character is who you really are. You are not your skill set. You are character. Leadership rises and falls on the strength of their character. Can I just quickly just share with you just a couple of other questions that you might find interesting? When in leadership, leaders will expose their character. All right, I'm just reading what I have on my screen. When in leadership, leaders will expose their character, and when in leadership, character will expose the leader. So when in leadership, leaders will expose their character, and when in leadership, character will expose the leader. Before we can have leadership with character, we need leaders with character. We cannot expect from leadership what is not in the leader. So if we want leadership with character, filled with character, defined by character, it has to come firstly from the person who is the leader. If character is not in the leader, let me rephrase. If character is not in the person who is the leader, character will not be in the leadership of the leader, if that makes sense to you.
Absolutely.
Quickly. Do not expect leaders to provide ethical leadership when they lack the character needed to be ethical. If we fail to build character in our leaders, and I say this to everyone watching, to South Africa and hopefully abroad, because this applies everywhere. If we fail to build character in our leaders, we should not expect ethical leadership from our leaders. If we will never trust a person whose character is weak, how is it that we are entrusting leadership, power, and people to leaders whose character is weak? It's inevitable that when a person's character is weak, there is going to be an abuse of position, an abuse of power, an abuse of resources, and an abuse of people. To put an end to that and to solve that, we got to deal with the character. Because right now, the people who are abusing people, abusing power, abusing position, who are corrupt, are already highly skilled, intelligent, smart individuals, but they are people who have got weakness of character. I think we owe it to ourselves, if for no other reason, that the next generation of leaders be intentional to develop their character. Before they leave colleges, universities, and schools, we need to make sure that on some level they've had an opportunity to go through some character development process. And that is why we're positioning ourselves to say everyone else can do leadership development, skills development, we want to focus on developing a generation of leaders who are not just strong in skills, strong in personal character.
Wow. Okay. My mind, if that's even possible, has been blown so many times during this podcast. It's unbelievable. Shawn, how can companies who have reached the point, and I need to just be very specific about this, who have reached the point where they are tired of the inertia of perpetuating leadership that does not bring about, and allow me to plug my tagline here, purpose-driven change.
Good.
If they are ready to be leaders with a difference, if they are ready and they understand that it takes character to actually lead with authority, because out of that character comes positive transformation. How do businesses get hold of you, sir?
Thank you so much. Well, they can get me on LinkedIn. Just go to Shawn Naidu, ATAP Group. Okay, Shawn Naidu, Naidu with the U. I'm one of those special Naidus, Naidu with the U, not a double O. So SHAWN, Shawn Naidu, Naidu with the U, ATAP Group, and the same on Facebook. Email, they can email me at shawn@atapgroup.co.za. shawn@atapgroup.co.za, and obviously my phone number 082 662 1853, 082 662 1853, and Shawn, SHAWN, Shawn@ATAP, ATAP Group. And once again, Shawn at ATAP Group, Shawn Naidu ATAP Group on LinkedIn. I encourage people just to go and have a look at my post.
Yes.
On LinkedIn, I do lots and lots of work. I put lots and lots of content out there on leadership and character. I don't do it for likes. If I look at my likes, I'm just glad that I don't do it for likes.
Yes.
I do it to create awareness, and I do it to provoke people. Change will never happen in this country and in individuals' lives until we're dealing with the character. And here's the nice thing with leadership and character development, at least ours, is that it's not just for your work, it's for your personal life and your social life. There are so many people who don't even realize that every single day, the biggest problems that they have with people has got nothing to do with people's mindset. It's got nothing to do with people's intelligence and knowledge. It's got to do with the level of character of individuals. You know, so many people are surprised during my workshops when they realize I've actually been dealing with the character of this individual all of these years. Like you mentioned early on,
yes.
when you look at it, you say, oh my word, it boiled down to character.
Yeah.
And until companies get to the point where they say and acknowledge that there's more to leadership than developing leadership skills and developing leadership character, I can guarantee you the culture of companies are going to change. Workplace relationships are going to change. Why? Because it's individual change. We are transforming leaders one character at a time. The masses are great, but for us, it starts with individual at a time. I also want to say this.
Sure.
To all leaders out there and all to companies out there, don't be scared of leadership and character development.
That's a good point.
But don't be scared, because leaders will not have a problem talking about their skill set because it's well developed. They don't have a problem talking about their qualifications because they're highly qualified. They don't have a problem talking about their expertise because they have lots and lots of expertise. But the moment you bring character into a conversation of a leader and ask a leader, what's your character like? Crickets. Crickets. Quiet, silent, uneasiness, tension, nervousness. Why? Because nothing is more personal to any individual on the planet than the individual character. And it's exactly that reason why we need to develop the character of individuals, because it is that personal. Because whenever you're treating, relating, dealing with people, relationships, it is character that exposes itself to individuals. So I want to say to companies and individuals, don't be scared of leadership and character development. Our workshops are fun. It's exciting. You will laugh your head off. We have moments of laughter, but then we also have moments of complete silence where I am the only one talking and you're just hearing what has been said, and introspection, surgery takes place on the individual. Don't be scared. If you want to change your life, if you want to change your life as an individual, whether you are a leader or not, and you want to change your life as a leader, and you want to change the life of your company, the character surgery that takes place on the inside of you. Yes, there might be elements where it's uncomfortable because the truth hurts, right, Inga? The truth hurts.
Yes, absolutely.
So and brace yourself for the truth. Brace yourself to, on some level, be offended. But I indemnify myself and I caution my people at the start of every session, and I say to them, I'm going to say things that you're probably not going to like. You need to brace yourself for that. I'm going to tell you things that is probably going to offend you. I'm going to tell you things that is going to upset you. I'm going to tell you things which I refer to as bitter pills. It's going to be hard to swallow. But no, my heart is in the right place. I'm not saying it to be intentionally offensive. I'm not saying it out of arrogance. I am not saying it to break you and to belittle you. I'm saying it to empower you, because I know sometimes the tallest buildings need to be broken down in order for them to be reconstructed to reach the heights of their potential. Sometimes an individual needs to hear the harsh truth of what is going on in their life, who they are, why they are the way that they are, what needs to change. And when you allow yourself to go through the process of character development, which has elements of uncomfortableness in it, but if you embrace that, you will come out a much better person, a much better leader. Your company culture will be much better, and your company at the end of the day will be much better. Don't be scared of leadership and character development. It will be the best choice individuals ever make in their lives.
Love this. And so let's land the plane here quickly, Shawn. I think what I would love for us to touch on with the next podcast is, because I think there's a lot of focus on women in leadership. There's a lot of focus on diversity, equity, inclusivity, and belonging. And I think your concept around character building and character leadership, because and here's my take on this: you might not necessarily be destined for a leadership position, but if you have got the type of character that people are willing to follow, you become a leader by default, whether or not you have the title behind your name, right? So I would love, please promise me you're coming back next time, and let's touch on women in leadership and how you marry the concept of character building and development within the framework of leadership, how you build it in there.
Definitely, I'm definitely looking forward to it. The onus is on you to invite me. I can't invite myself.
You are invited.
There we go. So we will organize the date and the time in the future, and we can definitely. I'm looking forward to it. I think the more people that are aware of leadership and character and how their character influences their lives, it'll be much better. At the end of the day, personal empowerment. They say we refer to it as personal empowerment, right? And nothing is more personal than character development. You want to do personal development, and companies will say, we're sending our staff on personal development. No, it does not get more personal
than character
development.
Awesome. Shawn, thank you to my audience. Please be sure and take my word for this. Have a notepad, have a pen handy. You want to stop and play as you are watching this. There are so many nuggets that Shawn has dropped. I promise you, he'll be back. We'll touch on women in leadership and the concept and the importance around character that underpins, overlays, just circulates it. But yeah, Shawn, again, thank you for your time. Mind has been blown. I have got a lot of thinking work to do this weekend, but a huge thank you for your time.
Thank you once again.
And we'll see you soon.
Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it, and we chat soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.